I am delighted to welcome back the fabulous psychologist Vassia Sarantopoulou, founder and owner of Anti-Loneliness, a company offering mental health services in the Netherlands and also worldwide. Now, we may feel that there are quite a few physical obstacles to feeling fabulous after 50, but I believe that a lot of that does come down to our mental health. So I am very grateful to have you back with us here today, Vasya, both on podcast and now via my YouTube channel. So maybe you can start for those who have not had a chance to listen or see the fabulous episodes we've done before on the topic of divorce and loneliness, also very crucial in this age group as well. Maybe you share a little bit about who you are and why you do what you do.
Great. Thank you so much for inviting me for the third time. It's a pleasure. I have become, a big fan of your podcast here. So we have talked about these deep topics that I love talking about: loneliness, regrets. We're going to talk about today about regrets. And I love how we can get really deep. That's the reason why I became a psychologist. I like to get into the root of the problem. I like to analyze it, sometimes over-analyzing. I know it's not good, but I like the analyzing. I like to see different perspectives. In my opinion, there's no right or wrong. It's just each person's perspective and life decisions that are leading them to one way or another. So I'm open to that. As you can understand also from my name, people who are listening or watching us, I'm Greek. These long names are Greek, but I'm not a typical Greek. I don't like feta cheese and I don't like olives. So,
oh dear.
oh dear, what's wrong with me, right? So yeah, but I moved to the Netherlands 10 years ago and I've made this, feel exactly like home. I feel like I like it here. My business is also growing. I like doing the things that I love most. And here I am talking with you about regrets. And who
And
has
we're certainly happy to have you here as well, because I mean, there's so much involved, with us as people, but also as expats as well, all these added things. And to set the record, Vasya and I met quite a while back, I think more or less when I arrived in the Netherlands as well. We were both on the Women's Business Initiative International, and she founded this anti-loneliness, which has helped so many. And you've grown from being alone to having a huge team of psychologists working with you, helping people feel happier. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, at the
So
end.
it is, right? At the
Yeah,
end of the
yeah.
day, it's actually simple. It's
Yeah.
about how, which tool do we use in order to feel happier? And so we're talking fabulous after 50, and we're talking about regrets today. And I realized, just as I was writing the intro for myself for this, that even the word regret, I really feel it in my body. My heart tightens, my shoulders sag, I feel sad, I feel not well, certainly not in a high life state. Yet we all have these regrets.
Yeah.
So, Vasya, what is a regret? Why do we have them? And should we let go? Should we keep them? What should we do with them? Where to start? I know I'm overwhelming you. So first of all, maybe we define, what is a regret?
It's a perspective on your life and realizing that I should have done it differently.
Right.
You said you feel it in your bones when you hear the word regret, but I feel the same when I hear the word should. You should have done that.
Right.
You should have. Why you shouldn't do that? It's the same thing. It creates this reprimand, this scolding of, like somebody's telling us off for something that we should have done or shouldn't have done. So it's about past mistakes. And it's about something that now, looking back, we wouldn't have done it, or we would have done it differently.
Right.
So,
or something even that we haven't done.
Or we haven't done.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of that at our age as well, where we think, well, if only I had followed my heart and studied this instead of listening to my father who said, you've got to do this. And
do you believe that there are people that they don't have regrets? Because sometimes there are people that they say, oh no, I regret nothing in my life. I regret nothing. Tell me what you think and I will tell you what I think.
I would think they're not being honest. I think we can't help it. I mean, I do think that you can decide to minimize that, and I'm certainly one of those, and I don't know why, but somehow very, very young, or very young, I don't know, in my teenage years, I don't know if I heard something or listened to something or saw a film about something, but I almost made a commitment to myself that I would not regret things in my life, that I would not accuse the person back then that I was of not having the knowledge that I have now. Because in a way, that is also a regret, right?
Yeah,
It's now
yeah,
we're wishing we did something else back then. But back then, I was not a 55-year-old with the knowledge and life expertise that I have now.
yeah.
And so I find it very unfair. And also, I mean, I'm a Buddhist, and I actually read somewhere or other that then it must be, I don't know in which language they were actually talking about, if it was, but within the sort of Buddhist mindset, there is no regret. Either you did something you shouldn't have done and you change it,
Yeah.
but you don't hit yourself over the head with all of these, as you say, should haves. And they can be imposed, like you've just said, by someone else, says who you shouldn't. But most of the time, sadly, I have the feeling that we impose them on ourselves.
It's this voice that you said somebody else said that you should have.
Yeah.
It's just internalized, and we're just saying that to ourselves. So you just nailed it. You said the two different categories of people who, what happens with them when they say, I don't have any regrets. One of
Right.
them, they are lying, or they are in denial, not lying, but in denial, right?
Yes.
And the second category is the one that has regrets, but they were not stuck in the negative cycle of regrets, but they turned them into a healthy perspective of regret. They made something out of that. They changed something in their life, or they used the lesson from the past in order to move on. So there is a moment of regret in everybody's life.
Yes, I can't imagine, it's just saying, oh, but there's a
I never
difference,
made
right? Saying,
mistakes.
oh, I could have done this, and then something else would have happened. But also, we never know, do we?
Yeah. If somebody says I don't have regrets, it's like saying I never made mistakes, which is impossible. So there is a moment of understanding I made a mistake and I regret about the mistake. But for the second type of people that you just said, is they take this moment of regret and they use it, they make something out of it. And that's why it feels like I don't have regrets, because I deal with them in a healthy way.
Yeah, you don't call it regret, right? So it's probably just, it's what then
Lesson
it's
learned.
owning. Yeah, it's owning the fact that we made a decision. Because in a way, I mean, as human beings, I suppose, we do function to the best of our ability at every time. Most of us are not sadists or masochists or whatever the right one is. We don't decide stuff which we know is going to cause us pain. So if we go from the principle that at the time we made the best decision we could with whatever was going on, or what age we were, or the knowledge that we had, etc. I mean, it's very easy afterwards, isn't it, to say you should have. I mean, it's even history, where people are judging at the moment. We hear a lot of judging about this and that, or all the stuff that's coming about, even about government's decisions during Corona and all that. And I'm thinking, well, it's easy to say that now with everything that we knew. But back then, I think, everybody was fumbling around in the dark, and it was the best thing that they thought. Okay, we're not going to go into politics, but, it's just that way of looking at it. But how do you... Yeah, go ahead.
There's a functioning side in having regrets. It's not all bad.
Okay.
I mean, when you are not in denial, because we talk about the first category of people, they're in denial. No, everything fine, everything fine. There's something functional when you take this moment to say, hey, I made a mistake. I regret having done it differently. It's the moment when you learn something. It's the moment that you pause and you realize that this serves my life, this doesn't serve my life. It's the moment that you protect something important, like, oh, why did I do it like that? It doesn't protect my relationships, or it doesn't protect my mental health, or it doesn't protect something that I consider important. It's the moment that you can be driven to a different action. How could you make a different decision if you wouldn't see the mistake? If you wouldn't allow yourself to listen to the regret? So again, there's something useful in saying, hey, I shouldn't have done it like that, because then we can realize the need that is being unmet, and then be led to a different decision or to a different action. Otherwise, we'll just continue hitting the wall, even though the door is just 1 meter away. We'll just go to the same direction, even though it doesn't work. So partially, there is something useful in there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm hearing you say it's like you stop and you take awareness, first of all, of what happened, right? That you think, okay, so what was going on and what decision did I make and why now do I feel that I could have taken another one that might have had a better result? So it's first of all pausing and taking awareness. And I suppose also in a way, I mean, in how far does regret tie in with responsibility? Because often I think our regrets are also, we sort of like to blame something else or somebody else or what other external circumstances there were for why we didn't get what we wanted back then. So I suppose that's also part of that awareness raising of, okay, what was going on? But indeed, how do you help then people to look at it in a healthy way like that and not accumulate? I mean, I know a lot of people around me whose lives seem, after 50, they seem to not even be looking forward anymore. They've decided that there are so many things that they've regretted that they're, I mean, a regret brings your self-confidence down, doesn't it? You're saying also, for those who are in denial or who don't take the good out of it, like you said, who don't say, well, look at it, what would you have done differently? Or what would you do if the same situation was to arise? What have you learned? And to put it in a different way. But I think for a lot of people, it becomes this sort of totally demeaning thing where you then, if you think I should have done it differently, then you're angry at yourself. You're thinking, well, what was wrong with me? Was I too stupid? Was I too blind? Was I this? It's not something which is empowering ourselves to make a better regret.
No,
it's almost drowning us, right?
I think it's even worse than that. Sometimes it can be even a self-punishment.
Right.
Because I made a mistake 10 years ago, I will punish myself for another 10 or for another 20. This is when you say that I made a mistake and I chose a wrong partner, for example. Well, what's the point now in changing? I'm going to stay and punish myself for another or for the rest of my life staying here because I lost my chance. The ship has sailed and I cannot find joy or love anymore. That's it. That's done.
Right.
So it can become a self-punishment. That's the dysfunctional side of regret. When we're staying in the rumination, we're feeling so guilty that we get paralyzed. We don't do any action, not backwards, not forward, nothing. Guilt and shame are the only thing that we're experiencing. And we end up believing that we don't deserve to be happy because we made a mistake. You don't deserve now. You have to pay the price for what you've done, for the wrong decision. That's it. Many times we hear now, you made a mistake, you have to pay the consequences. And this is the consequences that we're paying. So fear, which is usually what we are experiencing when we are regretting or this deep sadness, cancels joy, cancels motivation. You will never find the motivation to start over if you're just bombarded by fear and this negative self-talk. Look at you, look at your mistakes, you did it, it's your fault, you should have done it differently. This cancels any motivation, this cancels any hope.
Any future, right? It's that idea that it can be different. And I mean, we're talking about a after 50 population now, which lives forever. I mean, we could have easily another 30, 40 years in front of us where we can do exactly what we want to do. So it's learning from the past and then using that in a positive way, because it's so true what you say. And my heart goes out to so many, in particular women. I suppose they're the ones that I have around me the most and the main listeners of this podcast, who are exactly in that situation you've just described, who have accumulated and have this film in their head, of everything that they regret. So each time something new comes up, they add it to the list, make the film even louder in their head, why everything went wrong and why it's too late now.
Yeah.
Why it's too late now. And
Yeah.
indeed, that self-punishment thing that, well, if you've put up with it so far, for example, talk about a relationship, or I mean, so often it's regrets of things that we didn't do, it's regrets of choices that we made, about everything, but they can all change now.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
how do you then rebuild
Yeah.
that self-confidence, that hope, that trust in the future, if for the past, let's say, 40 years, you've been telling yourself that you'd make the wrong decisions the whole time and you don't even deserve to be happy? How
Yeah.
do you go about getting back into that, childlike innocence where basically everything is possible? And yes, you
Yeah.
will fail. If you're going to
Yeah.
live, you will fail. It's like people who say, well, if I don't go outside and I don't meet anyone and I don't start any friendships or love affairs, etc., then I won't get hurt. It reminds me of
Yeah.
that Simon and Garfunkel song about being an island. Sure, you're not going to feel any pain, but you're not going to feel any joy
Any
either.
joy. Yeah. 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 Indeed. There's a fantastic book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. This is not
Okay.
our main listeners here,
Yeah,
the
no, no,
dying,
no.
but it's a great
I'm
book.
writing it down.
And I think it's written by a nurse who was working in palliative care with people who are dying. And you will see that there was a top 5 regrets. All of them, they came back to these top 5 regrets. So I think the first thing that we should do is write down or make it clear what it is that we have regretted and what it
Right.
is that we want to bring back. So is it something related to fun? For example, I should have traveled more, or I should have
Yes.
made myself be happier and enjoy the moment. Is it about relationships? I should have stayed more, or I should have left, or I should have given a second chance. And I'm talking also
Mm.
about friendships and
Yep.
partners. Is it about career? I should have followed my heart instead of
Mm.
saying working in a cubicle for 50 years. I should have become an entrepreneur. Is it something personal, like I should have done, I should have paid more attention to my hobbies and given more time to that? I should have had the courage to express my
Yes,
feelings.
that you hear a lot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I remember many years ago, I was working with a man who lost his wife by cancer.
Mm.
And he was feeling so regretful
Mm.
because he didn't show her the love he had for her. Because
Mm.
we always say that, yeah,
Yeah.
tomorrow is a
They
day,
take
we
it for
have plenty
granted
of
that they
time.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was so regretful about that. Oh, I didn't show her how much I love her. I didn't spend time with her. We were just occupied with these mundane daily things. Why did I do that? So he
Oh,
realized that he was feeling a lot of pain because of that. And that's normal.
yeah.
That's the price we pay for love. But
Yeah.
at the same time, while we were working together, he started moving to the healthy regret. Take what it is that you didn't do before and start doing it now. So
Yeah.
some years later, when he found another partner and we were talking about these regrets, even though it doesn't make sense how this can correct the past, but we can never correct the past, he took all these things that he didn't do with his wife and he started doing it with the person that he was now. So
Yeah.
that was his way of correcting the mistake. You cannot
Yeah.
correct it another way.
Yeah.
So he was changing, he was paying attention to the present moment with his current partner. He was having fun with her. He was enjoying life instead
Yeah.
of stuck in this rumination and again, the self-punishment. I made a mistake, I need to suffer for the rest of my
Mm.
life.
That's a beautiful example. And
Yeah.
and it is so true. I mean, nothing's going to take back the decision that we made, right? I mean, we made a
No,
decision.
no.
So I think indeed we could first of all not be so harsh on ourselves for the decision that we made. Back then, yes, everybody was busy, doing their own thing, as you say, running behind the careers and etc. And to then take it into the now. And it is like a wake-up call as well. If you stop and you're not in denial and really look at it and think, well, what do I want to be remembered for? Or I mean, I'm sure that he now, having worked through that with you, I'm sure he's also more aware of how he communicates his feelings with everyone, to tell his children that he loves them,
Yeah.
to tell his, whatever family he's got. It's just about
Yeah,
being aware that what's important was that.
exactly.
What stayed with him
Yeah.
from that relationship was, I only wish I had been more present for her. So now
Yeah.
I'll be present for everyone.
exactly.
so,
And I
yeah,
like,
exactly. It's a lesson then. It's not a negative, poisonous remnant. It's a
no,
lesson. It's a lesson
no,
that we choose to learn from.
exactly, exactly. And we're giving ourselves the opportunity to start over and be happier in a different way, in a completely new way. And I like what you said before, that 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you made mistakes, but you didn't have the mind of a 50-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And we have to remind ourselves, we are not born wise. Unfortunately,
That is so clever. That's so true. We are
we are
not
not
born white.
born wise.
Yeah.
So blaming yourself for the mistakes you did at fifth grade or university or at your first job, it has no point, because you are meant to do mistakes. We are meant to
Yes.
go through
Yes.
mistakes, and we only learn from our mistakes. And then now we are playing smart, but because we have done the mistakes, not because
Exactly.
we knew back then. It's impossible that we know everything at a new
Yes.
challenge we have in our lives. So
And then also try to impose it on others. I know I remember, when my children were going through self-doubt and developing who am I, adolescence and however well or badly it went, etc. I remember, really wanting to give them the lessons that I've learned, but you can't. They
yeah,
have to make
they
their
have to.
own.
Yeah,
They
they have
have
to.
to make their
Yeah.
own and learn in their way. And the only thing you can do is make sure that they have a trusting, loving relationship with you, that you can be there to
Yeah.
listen, to help. But there's no point hoping that you can give them. It's a path that we all go through.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
probably to look at them almost as a sign that we have lived. Now,
yeah,
obviously, this is a huge topic, Vasya. And as you say, there are so many different ways and areas in
yeah,
which one can have
yeah.
regrets. But if I were to desperately try and simplify things and ask you for 3 tips for let's say people in their 50s who are, for whatever reason and in whichever domain, really in that state that you described so well, of being paralyzed, burdened, you're just crumbling. So you're not looking forward. You're like all tight with all these regrets. Yet, you might have 10, 20, 30, 40 years in front of you to enjoy. What 3 tips would you have?
So the first one that I would say is practice self-love.
Yes.
Self-love is
Mhm.
not something that we practice when we're happy clappy. Self-love is something we practice when we're sad and regretful and hurt. That's when we need it most. And
Mm.
an element of self-love is self-forgiveness,
Mhm.
forgiving myself for what I didn't know back then. And it's okay, because all of us, 8 billion people, have done mistakes back then, and we couldn't have avoided. So you're
Yeah.
practicing self-love instead of beating yourself up,
Yeah.
and reminding yourself that beating yourself up, it doesn't help. Nothing will change. You will just continue being miserable or unhappy, but nothing else will change. No
Yeah.
mistake will be corrected. So that's a useful reminder. Another useful tip and reminder is that start allowing yourself small moments of joy, and bringing what you could have done back then, but bringing now in the present moment. Just like the example that I said before.
Mm.
Take this should have, shouldn't have, and start doing it now. It's never
Yeah.
too late. There's always time. And
Yes.
sometimes we think, yeah, come on, it's only, like I only have 10 years left, or 20 years left, or 30 years. You can change your life in 6 months, and you
Yeah.
can
And
be.
1 year well lived is worth another 50 of just battering yourself with all the things you should have done, right?
Of course, of course, of course. And we have this empathy gap. We can never empathize with ourselves in the future moment. So don't think about the future. Just stay in the present moment. Whatever it is that you feel like doing, just do it now. Take an initiative. Start small. Just one step out of the door. It doesn't need to be extraordinary. It doesn't need to be
Yeah.
fireworks. You don't need to change everything, all the friends you have, all the life you have. Start small. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're just going to get overwhelmed. We
Yeah.
wish that we would have 2 lives, one for the mistakes and one for the correct life, but this is not possible.
Yeah.
This is not possible. And the last thing that I would like to say is, again, put yourself first. When it comes the moment that you say, what's the point in changing now? I've already made the mistake. Then remind yourself that you are the point. You are important. It's all about you. We come in this life in order to enjoy it, not to have money, not to be remembered. I read an article the other day. In 3 generations, we will be forgotten. Nobody will remember about us. So it's not about being remembered. It's about having fun. We are here in order to feel fulfilled and fun and have joy in our life. So you are important. You are the point. Every time you ask yourself, what's the point? Yes, you are the point. The point of changing, it's you.
That is so true. You're so wise, Vassia. You know, you look so young and all of that, and you have like this huge wisdom within you. And you've put it really perfectly, and it's so true. And it's that forward looking, right? Every day is a new day. Every day, you know, even if we're talking about cell wise and all of that, I remember somebody explaining to me once, you know, how actually, in effect, we are a totally different person every 8 weeks or something like that. So to see it that way, you know, we have all these chances, and, you know, why condemn yourself for the wrong reasons to be living a life of misery? Vassia, thank you very much. Obviously, for those who need to take it a step further, I would very much recommend that they get in touch with you at the Anti-Loneliness, right? That's actually the name of your company, right? If they want to do that. But I thank you for all that you give, you know, via your blogs, via your talks, etc., to help us shine and own our past and take from it what we've learned, you know, to stop and look at it, not be so terrified of all our regrets that we don't even dare look at what it is, own everything, and really time to shine. So thank you very, very much. And for the rest of you out there, I mean, the tips were, you know, the self-love and the self-forgiveness. Be your own friend. You know, we are the only one who will be with us right till the end. The small steps, you know, just look back and what was it that you regretted? What was it you wished you'd done differently then? And start doing it now in whichever way, in whichever person. It won't be the same scenario. The rest is the rest. Own it. And putting yourself first, but in a way of, yes, there is life ahead. And if I'm not happy, what can I change? What can I let go of? And how can I live the life that I'm meant to live? So thank you very much. Speak to the rest of you again this time next week. And Vassia, I do hope to have you back very soon to share more of your incredible knowledge.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.